I used to believe that silence was neutral, that when someone grew quiet, it meant nothing more than fatigue or distraction. But now I understand. Silence can be loaded, cruel even, can carry the weight of resentment, secrets, and the beginning of an end. It was the kind of silence that filled our home after Olivia left the family group chat. It wasn't just any group. It was the one with my parents, my sister Ellie, and Olivia. We'd used it for everything: updates, plans, pictures of Sunday dinners, and videos of the kids dancing in pajamas. Olivia had once said it made her feel included. She laughed at Dad's dry jokes and helped Mom pick out curtains over video call. But last month, things started shifting. It was subtle at first. A read receipt with no reply. A heart emoji where there used to be full paragraphs. Then, one morning, she just left. Her message was clipped, impersonal. I'm taking a step back from the family chat. Too much drama lately. Hope you all understand. No explanation. No conversation. Just a quiet departure that left my mother confused and Ellie simmering. I tried to smooth things over. I told them Olivia was tired, maybe overwhelmed. But I wasn't sure I believed it myself. And Olivia? She acted like it was nothing. Shrugged it off, said, "It's just a chat, Liam. Don't read into it." But I did. Because silence had started building elsewhere too. Her phone was always face down. Notifications were cleared before I walked in. She stopped inviting me to dinners with her friends. Said I wouldn't enjoy the banter. I used to sit beside her on the couch, our legs touching as we watched shows. Lately, she curled into the far corner, her laugh too loud at whatever was on her phone, her eyes never meeting mine. One night, while I was folding laundry in the bedroom, she called out from the living room. "Hey, I'm sending you something hilarious. Check your phone." Her voice was light, carefree. I opened the message. It was a short video, clearly a screen recording from a FaceTime call with her friends. I watched it. At first, it was harmless. Just a group of girls chatting, sipping wine, teasing each other. But then one of them brought up my mom. "Did she really ask you to bring that broccoli casserole again?" One of them laughed. "Oh my God, yes," Olivia snorted. I told her we were out of town, but she still texted me the recipe. Who even eats that anymore? It's like she's stuck in 1975. They all burst into laughter. Olivia leaned into the camera. "I swear, if I hear my special Sunday recipe one more time, I'm going to throw myself out the window." My stomach dropped. They weren't just laughing. They were mocking her. My mother, who tried so hard to make Olivia feel welcome, who never arrived without flowers or a fresh loaf of banana bread. I stared at the screen, unsure whether I was more shocked by the words or the laughter that followed them. Olivia looked so different in that frame. Relaxed, unguarded, almost cruel. She must have forgotten what she'd sent, or assumed I wouldn't care. I didn't reply. I didn't confront her. I just saved the video. Something inside me was beginning to fracture, but I didn't want to explode. Not yet. I needed time. I needed to understand what I was seeing. Days passed. She never brought up the clip again. She barely mentioned my mom. The distance between us grew thick and invisible. I started noticing more things. Her calendar was filled with plans I wasn't part of. She changed her phone password. She stopped wearing the bracelet my sister had given her. One morning, I asked casually, "Are we still doing dinner with my parents next week?" She didn't even look up from her phone. "Honestly, Liam, I'm not up for another awkward family meal. Can't you just go without me?" I nodded, biting back the words, but they echoed in my head for hours after. Another awkward family meal, as if the years of shared dinners and birthday cakes and inside jokes were some unbearable ritual she'd been tolerating. The final blow came the day we were planning her birthday. She was glowing with excitement, sending texts to friends, ordering cupcakes in ridiculous flavors, lavender lemon and maple chai. She didn't ask if my family was coming. She didn't even mention them. And I realized maybe that had always been the point. The night before her party, I stood in the living room alone. The TV remote in my hand. The file still saved on my phone. A video she'd sent me herself. A laugh she had shared, forgetting or not caring what it said about her. And I knew. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to show her the reflection she'd left behind. The morning of Olivia's birthday arrived with forced brightness. She fluttered around the house, humming softly as she arranged the last of the decorations. A lilac tablecloth on the dining table, candles that smelled like rosemary and vanilla, plates with golden trim she'd ordered just for tonight. She had always had a flair for beautiful surfaces. But now I knew that beneath them, something meaner lived. Something that laughed at kindness when it thought no one was watching. She didn't notice I was quiet. Or maybe she did and didn't care. I moved like a ghost through the house, setting chairs, wiping countertops. I nodded when she asked questions, smiled when she held up 2 dresses and spun in front of the mirror. "This one's more flirty, but the other's probably more elegant," she said. "Which one do you like?" I said the elegant one because it felt further away from the person in the video. She chose the flirty one. Around 5, guests started arriving. Her friends, mostly. A few couples we'd gone out with before. Everyone brought bottles of wine, loud hugs, their curated social charm. She greeted them like a hostess from a magazine, arms open, voice lifted in delight. I played my part too. Polite, supportive, harmless. I didn't drink. I watched. I listened. I waited. She didn't ask if my mom or Ellie had responded to the invitation. Probably because she hadn't invited them. At one point, I saw her scrolling her phone as she leaned in toward 2 of her girlfriends. They burst into laughter over something she showed them. I didn't hear it, but I didn't need to. The shape of that laughter had become familiar, curved with judgment. I looked down at my own phone, fingers brushing over the file. I still hadn't told anyone. Not my mom. Not Ellie. It wasn't shame. It was something deeper. A tired kind of sadness that couldn't find its way into words. Dinner came, and Olivia insisted everyone eat standing up, tapa style. "It keeps the energy flowing," she joked. I noticed she avoided the one dish I made. My mom's casserole, which I'd cooked quietly and placed at the end of the table. She didn't acknowledge it. Neither did her friends. But I watched one of the older guests, a woman from her office, go back for seconds. That made me smile in a way that hurt. The real moment began after dessert. Someone dimmed the lights. Her friend Kayla clapped her hands. Okay. Before we bring out the cake, let's embarrass the birthday girl a little. Yeah?" Phones were already in hands, recording. Laughter. Teasing. Someone shouted, "Play that clip from the cabin." Kayla shook her head. No. She made me delete it." Olivia stood in the center of the room, mock scolding them, basking in their attention. I stepped forward slowly. "I've got something," I said, just loud enough. Heads turned. She blinked. "Wait, what?" I turned to the TV on the wall, already connected to Bluetooth. "You sent this to me a few weeks ago. Said it was hilarious." Her eyes narrowed. "Liam, what are you?" I didn't answer. I tapped play. First, just her voice came through the speakers. Casual, giggling. "Oh my God, yes, I told her we were out of town." People looked around, unsure what it was. Olivia froze. The laughter started. Her friends on the screen. Olivia's face leaning into the camera. I swear, if I hear my special Sunday recipe one more time, the room went still. A couple of guests gave each other nervous glances. One man chuckled, thinking it was part of the party. But Olivia, her smile disappeared like it had been pulled off her face. She took a step forward. "Liam, turn it off." I didn't move. "She's stuck in 1975. The voice on the screen said again. Someone muttered, "Is that about his mom?" The video ended. Silence. Thick. The kind that fills your ears like pressure underwater. I looked at Olivia. She wasn't crying. She wasn't apologizing. She was calculating. "Okay, that was taken completely out of context," she began. "It was a stupid joke. We were venting, that's what friends do." I didn't say a word. She walked toward me. "Seriously, Liam? You really played that in front of everyone?" I nodded. "You're trying to humiliate me?" On my birthday. I tilted my head. You sent it to me. You thought it was funny. She paused. Because I trusted you. Not because I expected you to weaponize it. Was it trust? I asked. When you left the family group chat without telling me. When you mocked my mom after she bent over backward to make you feel at home. She crossed her arms. Your mom smothers everything. And that group chat was toxic. There it was. No apology. Just the edge of something colder. I looked at the guests. Most had stopped filming. Some stared at their drinks. A few looked at Olivia with expressions I couldn't read. And one woman, older, eyes soft with pity, nodded at me gently. I'm going to step outside, I said quietly. You can finish the party without me. I didn't slam the door. I didn't make a speech. I just left. And the sound of the party behind me felt like the last gasp of something that used to be ours. The air outside felt colder than it should have for late spring. I stood on the porch, both hands in my pockets, listening to the muffled clinks of glasses and shallow laughter that resumed behind the door. I didn't expect anyone to follow me, and no one did. That hurt more than I thought it would. Olivia had always had a way of rearranging a room, making people forget who else was in it. Tonight, she did exactly that. She swept the attention back to herself like nothing had happened. But I wasn't going to fight for space anymore. Not in that house. Not in her spotlight. I sat on the front steps for a long time, watching the street lamp flicker at the end of the driveway. My phone buzzed a few times. Notifications from random apps. A message from Ellie. Heard what happened. You okay? I didn't answer right away. What could I say? That I'd spent the last 2 years slowly handing pieces of myself to someone who never planned to hold them gently? That I still loved Olivia even now, and I hated myself for that? Eventually, I drove to a 24-hour diner down the street. The kind of place that smelled like burnt coffee and old linoleum. I sat at the counter and ordered nothing but black coffee, letting the cup warm my palms while my mind unraveled. I kept seeing Olivia's face in those final moments. Shocked, then cold, then defensive. She hadn't even looked ashamed. Not really. Just angry that I hadn't let her control the narrative. I scrolled through old photos while the waitress refilled my cup. Olivia at the beach, grinning with seaweed in her hair. Olivia in my hoodie, asleep on the couch. Olivia with my mother, both laughing at something during last year's Christmas brunch. I studied that one the longest. My mom's eyes crinkled with genuine affection. Olivia's smile looked real too. But now I wasn't sure what was ever genuine. I wasn't sure what she'd said about us when I wasn't around, or how often her smiles were built on mockery I never saw. By the time I came home, the house was dark. Everyone had left. Balloons were wilted in the hallway. A half-empty bottle of wine on the counter. Glitter still clinging to the rug. Olivia was sitting on the couch in silence, barefoot, wearing a blanket around her shoulders. She didn't look at me when I entered. She just said, "You really hurt me tonight." I stood there in the doorway, keys still in hand. "Did I?" "Yes," she said, voice sharp. "You embarrassed me. You blindsided me. On my birthday." I set the keys down slowly. "You laughed at my mother in front of your friends." "It wasn't meant to be cruel," she replied. "You don't understand how stressful things have been. Your mom overwhelms me. She means well, but it's always pressure, always expectations. So instead of talking to me, you mocked her behind her back?" She looked away. "People vent. You've done it too." "Not like that." She stood, pacing. "You don't get it. You've never had to adjust to someone else's family. Everything with you is about loyalty, tradition, holding hands and playing perfect. I needed space. You could have asked for it," I said. "But you didn't. You performed politeness to her face and laughed about her behind closed doors." Her tone dropped. "I didn't think you'd take it personally." I felt something inside me fracture at those words. "She's my mother, Olivia." Of course I took it personally. We stood there for a moment, facing each other across the distance of the room, like strangers who used to know each other intimately. She folded her arms. "So what now? Are you going to tell your family everything? Make me the villain?" "I don't have to," I said quietly. You already did that yourself. She shook her head, lips tight. This is what you always do. You make me feel like I'm the bad guy for not living up to your fantasy. It wasn't a fantasy. It was a relationship. And I thought we were building it together. And I thought you'd stand by me, she said, finally letting some anger slip into her voice. Not throw me under the bus in front of our friends. I took a breath. That wasn't revenge. That was reality. I just let people see what I saw. She laughed bitterly. You think that makes you noble? No, I said. It just makes me done pretending. Silence fell between us again. But this time it didn't feel empty. It felt like the end of something we'd both been holding on to too tightly. I didn't know what would happen next. I didn't know if I was sleeping in the guest room tonight or leaving for good tomorrow. But I knew one thing for sure, whatever came next, it wouldn't include denial. She sat back down. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I believe you, I said. But you still did. That was the hardest truth. Accepting that someone can harm you deeply without intending to, and that intentions don't erase consequences. I walked upstairs without another word. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry. I just lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling until the morning came, wondering when I had started sleeping next to someone I no longer recognized. I didn't move much the next morning. The sun came in through the half-open blinds, casting pale yellow stripes across the bed. Olivia didn't come upstairs. I heard her walking around downstairs, quietly at first, then louder, almost like she wanted me to know she was awake too. But I stayed in bed, fully dressed, watching the ceiling slowly shift from gray to light. There wasn't a single part of me that wanted another fight. The arguments had lost their fire. Now they just left smoke behind. And the smoke was in everything, my chest, my thoughts, my memories. When I finally stood up and went downstairs, she was sitting on the edge of the couch with her laptop open but untouched. She glanced at me, then back at the screen. Coffee's still hot, she said. I'm good, I answered. We didn't speak for a while. I sat across from her, staring out the window. The balloons were gone. Someone must have popped them in the night. The house looked normal again, but it didn't feel like ours anymore. I've been thinking, she said eventually, about what you said, about pretending. I stayed quiet. I never wanted to hurt your mom. I was just frustrated. I know I took it too far, and I know I should have apologized instead of defending it. That was the first time she'd said anything resembling remorse. It didn't fix anything, but it was something. I don't hate her, Olivia added. I just always felt like I was being compared, judged. I folded my hands. Maybe you were, maybe not. But she loved you, Liv. She tried. You didn't have to love her back. But mocking her like that, it broke something. She looked away. I don't know who I am in this relationship anymore. I feel like I've been shrinking. You didn't shrink, I said. You just stepped away and didn't tell me why. She wiped under her eye. I wasn't sure if she was crying or just tired. Maybe both. So what do we do now? I had been thinking about that all night. About whether I still had the energy to repair something that felt like it had cracked down its center. Whether love was still enough. Whether trust was something that could be rebuilt when the person you trusted was the one who handed you the hammer. I don't know, I said honestly. But I don't think pretending will help either of us. She gave a tiny nod. Are you leaving? I'm not packing bags today, I replied. But I need space. Real space. Not the kind where we stop talking and keep sharing a bed. So you're moving out. For now, I think that's best. She said nothing. Just sat there, her jaw tight, her hands clasped in her lap. And I saw something in her face I hadn't seen in a long time. Not anger, not manipulation, but fear. And I knew this wasn't just about the video. It was about everything that had been building between us. Unspoken, unaddressed, ignored until it twisted into something sharp. Later that day, I drove to Ellie's place. She let me in without asking questions. I saw the video, she said quietly as she handed me a glass of water. Mom cried. I figured she would. She said she always knew Olivia didn't like her, Ellie added. But she didn't know it was that bad. I didn't either. Ellie sat beside me on the couch. You're not the one who should feel ashamed, Liam. I'm not ashamed, I said. Just exhausted. You know, she said after a pause. We used to worry you were losing yourself with her. I looked at her. Why didn't anyone say anything? You looked happy, and we didn't want to be the bad guys. But then the group chat, the video, the way she pulled away. It became obvious. I leaned back, closing my eyes. It's strange. You spend years building something. You share holidays, memories, routines. And then one moment, one laugh, and the whole thing feels like a stranger's life. People reveal themselves in the way they treat those they don't need to impress, Ellie said. She forgot she was still being watched. I stayed with Ellie that night. The guest room was quiet, spare, but oddly peaceful. I stared at the ceiling again. Only this time it wasn't in dread. It was in stillness. I didn't know if I was mourning a breakup or a betrayal or just the version of me that used to believe Olivia's love was whole. But I felt something settle in my chest that hadn't been there in weeks. A kind of clarity. A still, aching resolve. The next morning, Olivia texted. We need to talk. I replied. Not yet. Because for once, I didn't feel the need to rush in and fix what she had broken. I needed to learn what it felt like to stop bending. Ellie didn't ask when I planned to leave. She just made space. A spare key on the counter. A shelf in the bathroom cleared without comment. I hadn't moved everything over, but I'd brought a duffel bag with clothes and my laptop. I told her it was temporary, and maybe I meant it. But there was a strange comfort in not having to explain the details. I was tired of performing calm. Tired of pretending I wasn't hurt. At Ellie's, I could just be someone figuring it out. Olivia texted again the second morning. Just one word. Please. I stared at it for a while, my thumb hovering over the screen. There was a time I would have rushed home at that. A time when her hurt automatically made me question my own. But now, I wasn't sure what she meant. Please what? Please talk? Please come back? Please forget? I didn't respond. Not out of spite, but because I'd spent so long prioritizing her comfort that I couldn't tell where mine had gone. I needed quiet. I needed truth. I needed to stop making excuses for someone who knew exactly how far she could push before I'd say, enough. Ellie came in as I was staring at my phone. You're thinking about going back, aren't you? I don't know what I'm thinking, I said. She sat beside me, setting 2 mugs on the coffee table. You're not the kind of person who gives up. That's what makes you loyal. It's also what gets you hurt. I looked at her. You think I should let it go? I think, she said gently, you should stop asking what she wants and ask what you need. That question echoed for the rest of the day. What did I need? I didn't know. Not fully. But I knew what I didn't want anymore. I didn't want to live with someone who could call my family drama and leave a chat meant for connection like it was nothing. I didn't want to wake up wondering if the person beside me had respect for the people who raised me. I didn't want laughter behind closed doors that came at the cost of people I loved. The third day, I called my mom. She didn't bring up the video. She just said, "Hi, sweetheart," with that soft voice that always tried to protect me from hurt, even when I was a child. I said, "I'm sorry." She said, "Don't be. None of this is your fault. She hurt you. She disappointed me." My mom corrected. "But more than that, I'm sorry you had to see who she really is that way." There was a pause. I could hear her taking a breath on the other end. "She's not a monster, Liam. But she's not who you hoped she was either. And I know that hurts." It did. More than I wanted to admit. She texted me. My mom added. Said she didn't mean it. That it was a joke. Do you believe her? I believe she regrets getting caught. That's not the same thing. After I hung up, I finally opened Olivia's last message again. Please. It sat there like a ghost of what we used to be. That evening, I went back to the house. Not to stay, just to talk. She opened the door like she'd been waiting beside it for hours. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair undone. It was the first time in a long time she didn't look performative. "Hi," she whispered. I nodded. "Can we sit?" We did. On opposite ends of the couch. The same place I'd watched her friends laugh on screen. I don't know how to undo this, she said. I keep replaying it. I keep thinking, why did I send it? Why didn't I delete it first? That's the part that's stuck in my head too, I admitted. You didn't even hesitate. She blinked. I thought it was private. But you still said it. She looked at me, hands trembling slightly. I was angry. Your mom. Sometimes she made me feel like I didn't belong, like I was constantly being measured. So you measured her back, I said, in a room full of people who didn't know her, who only saw her as a punchline. Tears slid down her cheek. She didn't wipe them. I was wrong. I know that. I nodded. You were. I don't know how to fix it. I don't think this is something you fix, I said. It's something you either learn from or repeat. She reached for my hand. I didn't pull away, but I didn't grip back either. I miss you, she said. I miss how we used to be. So do I. Silence again. Heavy. Familiar. Then she asked, do you still love me? And I answered honestly, yes. But love isn't enough when there's no respect left. She flinched, like the words physically hit her. I'm not saying this is over, I said. But it can't go back to what it was. And I don't know if you're willing to grow from this or just bury it and move on. I want to grow, she said. I swear. Then prove it, I said. Not to me. To yourself. She nodded slowly, and I stood up. I'm staying with Ellie for now. Take the time you need. Not to beg me back. To understand how this happened. And why I can't be the only one who cares what's behind the curtain. She didn't cry harder. She just sat there, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I walked to the door, my keys in my hand, my phone still holding the video she'd forgotten she sent. I paused before I left. I don't hate you, Olivia. I just finally stopped hiding the parts of you that hurt. And I stepped outside again. The days that followed were quiet, but not empty. I started working from Ellie's kitchen table, waking up early, walking more. I returned calls I'd been ignoring for weeks. My mother sent a photo of a garden bed she was planting. Ellie asked if I wanted to help repaint the spare room. Nothing dramatic. No big gestures. Just small, steady signs of life beginning again. Without her. Without Olivia. For now. She texted once. A longer message this time. I've been thinking about everything. I don't expect forgiveness yet. But I want to understand why I became someone who could hurt you like that. I'm not proud of who I was that night. Or the months leading up to it. I'm sorry. I read it a few times. It didn't undo what she'd done. But it didn't try to erase it either. And that mattered more than she knew. I didn't reply. I wasn't ready to let her back in. But I didn't block her either. Growth doesn't come with ultimatums. It comes slowly, in the space between impulse and reflection. And I was finally giving myself that space. About a week later, Ellie hosted a small dinner. Just a few friends, nothing fancy. I hesitated, unsure whether I wanted to be around people who might bring her up. But they didn't. Not once. No one asked where Olivia was. No one whispered about the video. They just talked, laughed, passed plates around like it was any other night. And I realized then that not everyone had built their world around her like I had. To them, this was a footnote. To me, it had been the whole book. After dinner, Ellie and I sat on the porch. The sky was deep blue, stars just starting to show. You seem lighter, she said. I think I finally stopped waiting for an apology that would make it make sense. Did her message help? I nodded slowly. It did. But not in the way she probably hoped. Ellie looked at me. It showed me that she might be capable of growth. But it also showed me how far we'd drifted. Even in trying to fix it, she made it about her pain. Ellie was quiet for a moment. Then, you think you'll go back? I don't need to answer that right now. And that was the truth. For the first time, I wasn't rushing to make a decision just to avoid discomfort. I was sitting in it, living with it, understanding that healing wasn't a race back to what hurt me. A few days later, I returned to the house, not to move back in, but to pick up a few more things. Olivia wasn't there. She'd left a note. Take whatever you need. I'm staying at Kayla's for the week. I won't make it awkward. I hope you're okay. She signed it. Oh, the house was clean. Strangely clean. She had scrubbed away the party glitter, the wine stains, the balloon ribbons. But it also felt hollow, like a stage after the actors had gone home. I walked through each room, slowly, like saying goodbye to an old version of myself. When I reached the bookshelf in our room, I saw a small box labeled Liam's. Inside were framed photos, birthday cards, the keychain I gave her on our second anniversary. Things I'd forgotten I'd given her. Things she'd quietly returned. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened the last photo album. Near the back was a picture I didn't remember being taken. Olivia sitting with my mom at the kitchen table, both laughing, both holding coffee mugs. For a second, I let myself believe it had all been real. That maybe, for a while, it was. But I closed the album gently, because even if it was real, it had changed. And some changes can't be undone. I left the box in the trunk of my car and drove back to Ellie's. That night, I wrote Olivia a message. Not long, not cold. I hope you continue to grow. I hope one day we can speak again with peace between us. But I need time, maybe a long time. I still love the version of you that loved my family. But I can't be with someone who needs to hide to be themselves. I won't live with that kind of silence anymore. I didn't wait for a reply. I turned off my phone and slept better than I had in months. Sometimes love isn't loud. Sometimes it walks away quietly, not because it stopped caring, but because it finally started caring about itself. And to those watching, those who've ever been made to feel small inside the home they helped build, I ask you this: what would you have done if it were you?